One of the most common topics in IELTS is the environment. You might get text in the IELTS reading test about pollution, or you might get a talk in the IELTS listening test about endangered animals. In the IELTS writing test, you might be asked to write an essay about electricity, and in the IELTS speaking test, the examiner might ask you questions about climate change. So it's really important to know a lot of vocabulary that relates to the environment if you're going to do well in the IELTS test. In this video, you're going to learn 20 essential words that will help you in the IELTS test. And if you would like to have a little challenge, then in the comments section of the video, write a sentence that uses one of the words. Put that in the comments and I will try to take a look at it. And remember, if you would like to watch more videos like this, then please subscribe to my channel. So let's look at the first of those 20 words, and it is the word pollution. Pollution. So note the stresses in the middle of the word here, pollution. Pollution means harmful substances which enter the environment. For example, and especially air and water, and also damage the environment. So it can also damage or harm the people and the animals and the plants. And here are some example sentences. Air pollution causes many health problems in large cities. The factory was fined for dumping waste and increasing water pollution in the river. Many people use bicycles instead of cars to reduce pollution levels. So you can also see here the common collocations: air pollution, water pollution, reduce pollution. We try to reduce pollution or increase pollution, and reduce pollution levels as well. So those are some common collocations with the word pollution. The next word is ecosystem. Ecosystem. Notice the E is pronounced E, not E. Not ecosystem, but ecosystem. An ecosystem means all the living things and their environment in one place, in one area. So all the animals and all the plant species as well in one place. We often talk about ecosystems. For example, a jungle. So a jungle ecosystem includes all the animals in the jungle as well as the plants and the trees. Here are some example sentences. A healthy coral reef ecosystem supports a wide range of marine species. So the ecosystem has all these different marine species: fish, shells, maybe sharks. Changes in temperature can affect the balance of a rainforest ecosystem. Overfishing can disrupt the ocean ecosystem and endanger many species. So again, some common collocations. Here's a coral reef ecosystem, a rainforest ecosystem, ocean ecosystem. And if you have pollution or problems like overfishing, it can disrupt an ecosystem. It can make it worse. It can damage the living things. So those are common collocations. And the next word is biodiversity. Biodiversity. Bio is a word, a prefix that simply means life. So it effectively means the diversity of life, or the variety of different plants and animals in a place. Diversity means a range, variety. Here are some examples of its use. High levels of biodiversity in a forest mean there are many plants and animal species. Climate change threatens biodiversity in Arctic regions. Protecting biodiversity helps ensure the stability of ecosystems. So there's the word ecosystem again. Some common collocations, you're going to have high levels or low levels of biodiversity. You can threaten biodiversity to make it worse. Maybe the animals and plants become endangered. You can protect biodiversity to ensure that the plants and animals in a place can survive. And the next word, renewable. Renewable. You stress the new here, renewable. This means something that can be replaced naturally and never runs out, can go on forever if it's renewable. Using renewable energy sources like solar power can reduce carbon emissions. Solar power comes from the sun, which, well, it's not going to run out for a very long time, a few billion years, I think. So you can get solar power from the sun for several more billion years. So it's renewable. Many countries invest in wind farms to develop renewable electricity. Renewable energy is seen as a key solution to climate change. Common collocations here, renewable energy. You can see it down there as well. Renewable electricity. And you can develop renewable things, renewable energy, renewable electricity. The next word, conservation. Conservation. You stress here, conservation, conservation. And this means protecting and saving nature and wildlife. If you want to protect wildlife and nature, then you conserve it. You engage in conservation. Wildlife conservation helps protect animals from extinction. Conservation efforts focus on saving endangered species. Many volunteers join conservation projects in protected areas. Conservation projects is a common collocation. Conservation efforts, and we talk a lot about wildlife conservation. That's more natural than animal conservation for some reason. We talk about wildlife conservation. Climate. Climate. This is a word you cannot do without when talking about the environment. It means the usual weather conditions of a place over a long time. In other words, over decades or centuries or millennia. It's not something about days or weeks. When we talk about the weather, we normally talk about days, a few days, maybe a week or 2 weeks. Climate is a long period. Many scientists agree that climate change is causing more frequent storms. So this is the very, very common collocation, climate change. A cooler climate can impact how crops grow in some regions. People move to different areas because the climate there is easier to live in. Climate change is that common collocation, cooler climate, and we often talk now about a warmer climate as well. The next word, habitat. Habitat. This is the place where a plant or animal naturally lives. For example, the polar bear's natural habitat is the ice-covered Arctic region. Urban growth has destroyed the natural habitat of many wild birds. A balanced habitat allows animals and plants to thrive, to live really well. Natural habitat is probably the most common collocation there. Sustainability. Sustainability. Sustain, so you stress the second syllable here. Sustainability. This means using resources in a way that does not harm the future. So you manage the resources, you don't use too many of them, or you replace them. Many people are adopting sustainability practices like recycling and composting. So that means that you can, if you recycle plastic, cardboard, you can use it again. Composting is you take your waste food and that can be reused or turned into compost. Sustainability in farming helps protect the land for future generations. Government should encourage sustainable lifestyles to reduce waste. So sustainability practices here, and this is a different form of the word. Sustainable is an adjective, lifestyles. So you're not using too much stuff, you're not producing too much waste. Emissions. So the stress is here. Emissions. These are gases or substances sent into the air by vehicles and factories, often harmful ones, related to pollution. As in this example, emissions from factories can increase pollution in nearby towns. Reducing car emissions is important for improving air quality. Government set limits on emissions to protect public health. So we have set limits on emissions. Governments are increasingly doing this. Car emissions, or emissions from cars, emissions from factories. Contamination. This is when harmful substances make something dirty or unsafe, or simply polluted. Chemical spills can lead to soil contamination, harming plant life. Water contamination makes it unsafe for people to drink. Scientists test for contamination to protect public health. So soil contamination, water contamination are very common collocations, and you can test for contamination as well. The next word, carbon footprint. The next phrase, really, carbon footprint. This is the total amount of carbon dioxide you create through your actions, for example, flying or driving or turning on the electricity. Taking public transport can help reduce your carbon footprint. Factories are working to lower their carbon footprint by using green energy. Measuring a household's carbon footprint can show how to save energy. So it's a measurement of the amount of carbon dioxide you put out into the atmosphere, and you can reduce your carbon footprint or lower. That's what we should be trying to do, of course. The next word or phrase, greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases. These are gases that make the earth warmer by trapping heat in the air, in the atmosphere. And it especially relates to carbon dioxide, which we just mentioned with carbon footprint, but also methane, which is often produced by livestock, by cattle, by animals on farms. Greenhouse gases trap heat in the atmosphere, leading to higher temperatures. Carbon dioxide is one of the most common greenhouse gases. Cutting down on fossil fuels can reduce greenhouse gas levels. So that's the singular form here, greenhouse gas levels. Endangered. Now this means a plant or an animal that is at risk of dying out forever, and there will be no more of them. The giant panda is an endangered species protected by strict laws. Conservation groups help endangered animals recover in the wild. Many experts agree that some forests are home to endangered plants. So we've got endangered animals, endangered plants, endangered species as well. Drought. A drought is a long period with little or no rain, so the land is very, very dry. A long drought can destroy crops and lead to food shortages. Many regions face droughts because of changing rainfall patterns. Drought conditions make it hard for farmers to water their fields. We often face droughts. Many regions face droughts. That's a very common collocation. So just note the pronunciation. This O-U-G-H letter combination in English does have a variety of pronunciations. If there was no D there and there was no T, the word here would be rough. But we don't say druft. We say drought. So be aware of the pronunciation. Drought. Recycling. Recycling is collecting and reusing materials so they do not go to waste. So we recycle plastic, cardboard, paper, lots of other things. Recycling helps reduce the amount of waste sent to landfills. Landfills are where local governments bury rubbish. So it often leads to mountains, landfill mountains. Many cities have special bins for recycling paper, plastic and glass. Recycling old electronics can save valuable materials because they can be used again. Deforestation. Deforestation is the cutting down of forests, specifically the trees within the forests, often without replanting them. Deforestation in the Amazon rainforest has led to a loss of habitat for many animals. Some countries have banned logging to slow down deforestation. The increase in deforestation can cause floods and soil erosion. We often talk about deforestation in a place, but you can slow down deforestation, and the reverse of that is to have an increase in deforestation. Fortunately, you can change the effect of deforestation with reforestation. Reforestation, which is planting new trees where forests have been cut or burned down. Reforestation projects help restore areas damaged by forest fires. Local communities take part in tree planting for reforestation. Reforestation can reduce carbon dioxide and fight climate change. So reforestation projects, similar to conservation projects which we had earlier. The next word, erosion. Erosion. J. This SI here makes the J sound. Erosion. Erosion. This is when wind or water wears away soil or rock over time. So, for example, heavy rainfall causes soil erosion on steep hills. Erosion can lead to the loss of fertile land for farming. Planting trees, in other words, reforestation, helps reduce erosion by holding the soil in place. Soil erosion is a very common collocation. And we can reduce erosion. Again, we can increase erosion as well. Fossil fuels is another phrase. Fossil fuels. These are natural fuels natural fuels like coal, oil and gas, which are formed from ancient plants and also ancient animals and buried deep underground. Burning fossil fuels releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Coal, oil and natural gas are the most common fossil fuels. Many nations want to replace fossil fuels with green energy. We want to replace fossil fuels, and we do too much of this burning fossil fuels. Preservation. Preservation is the next word, and this means keeping something in its original state or safe from harm, quite similar in a way to conservation. Preservation. Preservation of old forests can protect rare wildlife. So they're keeping the old forests in their original state. Many parks focus on the preservation of natural habitats. Preservation efforts often involve cleaning up rivers and lakes. So preservation efforts, you can also have preservation projects or the preservation of something. So well done for getting to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned quite a bit about these words. Remember, have a go at writing a sentence that uses one of the words in the comments section, and I'll take a look at it. And again, thank you for watching.